Alright, hey everybody, this is going to be my analysis of the matchup against Mono-White. Now, I will kind of apologize here. What I've done is, at this point in time, I only have a few matchups left to record, so when I'm in the tournament practice room, I did put a note up for specific Mono-White, so I don't have to waste time, going through. Now, this deck, I think, has a very good matchup against Mono-White, just like Mono-Black. Especially after sideboarding, it's really strong. But we have a good amount of removal, plus the life gain allows us to stall. One of the drawbacks for Mono White is that it does not have kind of a draw engine, so they can run to a point where they've kind of overplayed. They've dropped all their hand, and now they're just in top deck mode. So I think we have a pretty good matchup. They also do a lot of one toughness creatures real fast, so we got a nausea opening hand, and those are in deck, and I think it's really great for this game. Now I will say that despite the fact my opponent had me down to about 3 life, he does concede match. So I apologize. Instead of getting another game, I still wanted to use this one because I think it's a pretty good showcase of how this deck can hold up against Mono White before sideboarding. So you're only going to have this one game, but I will talk about the sideboarding at the end of it and what your options are for that. So now, on my opening hand, I had tap lands. I'm figuring it's not a big deal. We'll search out a swamp, and you definitely want to get a swamp here, so you have these kill spells. Mono White is very creature heavy, so the kill spells are really going to be the main things you want to play. And I need the black to be able to play these. If I get a snuff out top decked, I need the swamp in play to be able to pay that for its alternate cost. So my hope is I would play the Terramorphic, I would get the swamp, and then draw into a basic land. Unfortunately, this time around, I did not. So I'm hoping that by my next turn, I can get that. This is a pretty typical turn 1 for Mono White is the Javelineers or the Bone Splitter. Here, it's definitely a smart move. You get the Javelineers first, then you can play the Bone Splitter on turn 2 and attack for 3. When dealing with the Javelineers, it's always best to try and kill them when they're tapped. It's not critical, but that'll save you 1 damage off the top. So here's my next draw. It's a Missionary. Now that's good and bad. Missionary's good, life gain. It's one of the better creatures for this deck. On the other side, the untapped land is not available. So we will play the Chancery instead of a Terramorphic in order to throw out be able to throw out one of those Terramorphics. It's not a big deal. This way we'll have all 3 colors in play. We'll take a little damage to start, but that can be negated. And here's one of the biggest threats in this game, in the Mono White matchup, is the Razor Golems. They're pretty big, and when the Bone Splitters come into play, then they're just even worse. So here I'm sitting. I have draw into Echoing Decay, which is a nice kill spell. The Diabolic Edict is not going to be terribly helpful because I cannot directly target the Razor Golem. If I use the Echoing Decays to kill, and it really is my only other kill option in this deck, what I need is to get a second one to be able to drop off all 4 toughness. The other thing is I could have used Nausea to kill the Javelineers, taken 5 damage, and then used Edict. The downside of that plan is the fact that it's basically assuming that your opponent is not going to play another creature, so that he has to choose the Golem, and that's a pretty bad assumption in Mono White. It is, again, a creature-heavy deck, so he's gonna have creatures, and odds are, even if you waste that Nausea, usually you want to use it for multiple 1 toughness creatures. Here, if I use it, I would just be wasting it as a 1 kill, and it becomes a waste because that would die, he would play another creature, and then your Edict would kill probably the smaller of the 2. It's most of the creatures are going to be smaller than Razor Golem. But that's okay. I'm assuming the fact that I'm going to have to take a lot of damage in this game and try and build some of it up with the Missionaries. And I'm sitting here, I'm taking the 5. I will cast the Edict to try and force the Javelineer to get sacrificed while tapped. Could be a bad play in some people's opinion, but I wanted to clear the board as best possible, take as little damage as I can, and he was tapped out, so I wouldn't take that extra javelin damage, I guess. So things look worse here. He throws down a second Golem, but I get a fantastic top deck. I get a second Echoing Decay, and I have an Evolving Wilds in hand. So here's what the play is. You drop the Evolving Wilds, you search out the swamp, and I'm going to have to sit here. I'll pay the missionary, so I'll be able to chump block. I'll gain 4 life. I'll take very little damage on this turn. But I will be able to, on my next turn, cast both Echoing Decays and kill both Razor Golems, and that's pretty awesome. If he plays a third, then it's just that much better. But this is something that some people will encounter. I know it happens to me many times if I'm lagging a little bit in Magic Online. I sacrifice the land and I click the swamp. Now, I just played this seconds ago. I know I clicked the swamp. It's not pilot error. This is something that has occurred multiple times. And I click the swamp, and what do I get? I get a Plains. So, you know, there's not a lot I can do about it at this point. Game must go on, but it is frustrating. It does happen to me on occasion. And all I can do is kind of suck it up and go with the flow. I will still play the missionary to go up the life and get some blocking and prevent some damage, and hope that I can survive long enough to top deck a second swamp, or get another black mana in play at the very least. 2 attacks with both. I'm of course going to block the bigger of the 2. Suntail Hawk, I don't think it's a common creature for this deck. I could be wrong, but I'm not too worried about it. I get a Fume Spitter, not what I'm looking for exactly, but I will be able to use that to chump block a Golem and kill the Hawk. So here he goes. He attacks with all 3. Block the Golem, sacrifice, so I'm preventing damage from the Golem, and I'm killing the Hawk. Now, I get the Snuff out. I'm going to wait till my opponent's turn to cast this. If I cast it on my turn and kill the Golem with the Bone Splitter, he's just going to move it to the other Golem, and I'm going to take 5 damage. But if I wait until the combat phase, well, it's negated now, but if I waited until the combat phase when he no longer has the option to move the Bone Splitter and then kill the Golem, I'm only going to take 3 damage as opposed to 5. That's going to be the smart play every time. Unfortunately, as you see, my opponent gets the second Bone Splitter into play, and he's going to be smart and attach it to the other Golem. If he attached him to 1, then it's easy to just kill that. So it's always the smart play to attach it to the second Golem. But I will be able to, use the Snuff out. And again, waiting till combat, because if I used it pre-combat, he would have been able to move the Bone Splitter onto the other, and I would take 2 additional damage. I'm at a point now where I'm so low in life that I'm not going to be able to pay the 4 life casting costs. So that's why I had the mana open for it. So now I'm down to 2 life, and things look grim, but I do top deck into the missionary. I mean, at this point in time, I was already considering my sideboard options, but I top deck the missionary, and I have the mana open afterwards to blink. So I'm going to go up to 6 here. And when my opponent attacks next turn, you shall see he attaches the Bone Splitter. And when he attacks, I will be able to block it with the missionary and blink it. So I take no damage and I go up 4 more life. Now I have the blink in graveyard again. I'm going to be aware of the game board and leave mana open as necessary to use that. But I do top into my second swamp. And at this point in time, since there's only 1 Golem, the 2 kill spells for it may be a little tough. I do have other options. Like I said, I can leave the mana open to blink a second time. He's gonna, if he plays a creature on his next turn, he's still only going to be able to attack with the Golem. So I can use this this blink again to use the missionary chump block and then gain another 4 life. That is my choice. I also could have played Serrated Arrows to reduce the size of it, take a little damage maybe, and then chump block it with the missionary for the kill. But I think the better play here is definitely what I did. Leave the missionary in play. He's not going to be able to attack with this Sky Hunter, and I will use the blink and go up life. I'm not terribly concerned about the Sky Hunter. No, I'm not terribly concerned about the Sky Hunter, sorry, because I have the Echoing Decays. I can deal with it. I do have the 2/3 flyers, which you see I did top deck into 1. And this was kind of interesting. My opponent decided, I had the plan to blink the missionary in defense, and he decided not to attack. I think that was a poor move on his part. It would have cleared the blink out of my graveyard and just gotten rid of it. You know now he's going to try and equip the Bone Splitters to the Sky Hunter so that he can get by and attack through the air without being blocked. Sorry. But I am going to play the Rift Watcher, go up more life, and I do have a chump blocker for that. So even if he attaches a Bone Splitter to kill the Rift Watcher, what I'm going to be able to do is chump block it and be able to kill it. At the very least, you'll see here he's going to actually draw into a removal spell in Unmake, which he's going to use to target the Rift Watcher, so he can attach those Bone Splitters. Now what I'm going to do is, I left the mana open just in case for Echoing Decay. Clearly I've given up on my plan at this point of using it to kill the Razor Golem. And you wait till, again, you're going to wait till combat to do that, because you see he's going to waste the mana and move the Bone Splitters onto the Knight so that he can attack for 6 and not be blocked. But in response to this, before he can attack, or after attack, it doesn't matter, you're going to be able to Echoing Decay and clear that off the board. I decided to take 3 from the Razor Golem. I've gotten my life back up to 14, it's not a big deal. I know I still have the Blinking Graveyard, and I can use it for the Missionary later on. You see, he makes a smart move, he uses his remaining mana to attach the Bone Splitter. And now I draw Prohibit. Again, I'm sitting at a point where I could play the arrows. I do have other plays with the Blink and the Prohibit. Prohibit's good in this matchup. It's one of your few options against Guardian of the Guild Pact, which you'll see later on. I do end up using it for that. I decided here to play the arrows to lower the Golem down, take a little damage from it. But that's just one of those things. You're hoping for Sky Hunter, so you can bounce that and get more use. He does top into a Journey to Nowhere. Just an FYI, most Mono-White decks are the same build, and that build runs 4 Journeys and 4 Unmake's main deck, as well as 4 Bone Splitters. Other than that, their entire deck is made up of creatures. So it's just good to be aware of. He does top into a removal, so I'm going to have to take 6 off this turn. But draw another arrows. Now at this point I can use a counter off the arrows and kill it with Echoing Decay. I really don't have any other plays. I could have played the second arrow to bring it down to 1 toughness, but it seems like a wasted play. You might as well just kill it while you can. I'm down to 5 life, so be as cautious as possible. I still would have taken a decent amount of damage, and I didn't want to take chances. You want to make sure that Golem is off the board and not going to be in trouble. You see here my opponent's getting to that point. I said Mono-White doesn't really have a draw engine, and he's down to 2 cards in hand and kind of in top deck mode. He did not draw a creature, so he's kind of SOL. So now I have an option again. I could play the second arrows, but because I know he's in top deck mode, I decided it was a better play to keep the mana open for the Prohibit. No point in spilling all my blood at once, throwing the second arrows down to deal with creatures. If he plays one creature at this point in time, it has Summoning Sickness, so I can deal with it. If it's small, I can use arrows, I can use Nausea. If it's big, I can hope I can top deck something, or counterspell it. So I'm not really worried about playing second arrows right now. I can use that later on. And you'll see it does pay off here because he attempts to put out Guardian of the Guild Pact, and I can throw out Prohibit with the kicker to stop that from coming into play. Now that's going to be one of the toughest creatures to deal with in this matchup, because the only things that you'll have to affect that is 2 Prohibits pre-game, pre-entering the battlefield. Once it hits the battlefield, your only choice will be Serrated Arrows or the single Diabolic Edict, and that's again a tricky move because you're hoping that a heavy creature-based deck will not have other creatures to stop you from forcing the sacrifice. So it seems he did have, I guess, a Bodyguard in hand. I don't know why he was holding on to it. I imagine he wasn't holding on to the Guardian, was holding on to the Bodyguard. But I will be able to just kill that with the arrows. I have the second arrows in play, I can do that. But, I'm going to draw cards, my hand is getting very low. Worst comes to worst, I can jump block the Bodyguard with Bone Splitters. Later on, I can play the Serrated Arrows next turn or whatever to kill off that Bodyguard. It's not really a threat right now. Later on it will be. You want to make sure to get rid of that because it will stop you from killing any kind of creatures. So later on you're going to want to kill it, but not critical right now. You have the Serrated Arrows, it's going to die. So here's a play that's kind of one I'm glad to see, I guess I would say. He plays a Squadron Hawk, so he's going to be able to at least refill his hand with these 3 Hawks. Now I'm still sitting on a nausea, and I'm glad that I did not waste it in the early game, because he is going to, and I'm gonna do my best. I want to let him play as many of those as possible and try and draw those out. So he's kind of smart here. He only plays 2 of these and attaches bone splitters to them. But I know I want to get rid of them, so I'm going to use the last counter on my arrows, even though it's going to go to graveyard, to kill the bodyguard, so that he doesn't give him prot black. I'm not sure, and someone can feel free to correct me on this, that the giving them prot black, or one of them prot black, would save them from nausea since it is not targeted. But, just in case, get rid of the bodyguard. It's not a huge deal. So at this point, I'm sitting pretty good. I'm surprised he didn't attach the bone splitters. It would have been the better play for him. It was smart of him only to play 2, not knowing my hand, but I had the chance to attack here, or I could have played the nausea. But again, I want to save the nausea. I want to draw out as many of the hawks as I can. So at this point in time, it looks like I'm just trying to save some life. I keep the Mole Drifter untapped, but in reality, I know what I'm doing. I'm going to use the Evolving Wilds to fetch out more of the basic lands, so I do not draw into it. Now, I also have the Momentary Blink, and that's why I tapped out, or I left myself untapped here. I could have tapped and put the arrows into play, but that would have scared him off of playing additional hawks. So I felt the better play here, and I still do, is to leave the mana open for Blink, chump block, blink, draw into something, maybe a direct kill for the second hawk. If not, I will take the 3 damage, because he's going to be a smart player here, and he's going to split his bone splitters again. And so the better play is definitely to not play the serrated arrows and try and draw out more hawks. So he does. He comes in, I blink the Mole Drifter after blocking, in hopes of drawing something. And I have the mana open to play most of my instant 2-cost black spells. It's important to remember to do that, is keep the mana open. But you see here, I drew into no kill spells, so I'm going to have to take 3 damage. That's fine. I'm still surviving. It's going to be very close, but I'm okay with that. I know I have the life gain. I can go up later on. And I have an Oracle. I can fetch it out. And you see, I did manage to draw yet another hawk. And he has the mana open. I was hoping that he would play his 4th and final hawk right about now, but he chooses not to, I believe. Yeah, because he has Journey to Nowhere, so he's going to use that to remove the Mole Drifter, so that he thinks he's got this on next turn. He can swing with the hawks and do 2 damage, even if I kill one of them. Unbeknownst to him, I do have Nausea in hand this whole time, and I use it to wipe the board. Now, I'm sitting at the advantage. Even though I'm at 2 life, my opponent's at 20, I have the Oracle, I can draw cards, I have the serrated arrows, and I know one of those cards is a Squadron Hawk. So we look here, I have the Skyfisher, and this is great. I'm going to take the Skyfisher, I'm going to play the island, and drop the serrated arrows. Now, I'm going to use that to kill the Squadron Hawk that I know he's going to play next turn, and hopefully he plays other creatures, because I want to use as many of these counters as possible before playing my Skyfisher. So he's going to play the second Hawk here, and he's actually got a Razor Golem too, that I guess he drew into. So now I'm going to be able to put a counter on Razor Golem to reduce it in size at the end of his turn, and my arrows on taps, I use the second counter to kill the Hawks, and then I can play the Skyfisher to bounce serrated arrows back to my hand. And this is really a great play with this deck, and replay serrated arrows, which I will use to put another counter on the golems. At this point, I have the Bog in hand. I know I can play that on this turn to get him to remove all these cards in his graveyard. His golem would have been at 2 toughness. I could have blocked, jump blocked with this Oracle. I could have killed it with the Skyfisher, but he does decide to concede the match, which I thought was a little cheesy, I guess. Either way, I just wanted to still show you this. He was at 20 life, I'm at 2, and he still decided that this game was over, and he's right, it was. I have got a lot of my mana out of the deck. I have a lot of potential to draw cards. Only used 1 Mole Drifter, no deep analysis, any of that, so I really was at the advantage here. But let's take a look real quick at the sideboard options, what I would have sided in. So you clearly are going to bring in the Prismatic Strands. That's great for any monocolored deck, especially monocolored aggro. I'll be able to prevent some of that early damage. It's pretty great. Now Hydroblast is useless. The Dispel and the Negate, not really worth it. They do have stuff in their sideboard that would stop, but I don't feel like it's any big threat. Most of their stuff is creature based, so what I want to bring in, the Doomblades, I want to bring in the Diabolic Edicts. What can come out? I guess the Grim Harvest can come out. You may want to use these in place of some of the Echoing Decays, because you still have the Razor Golems, so you're going to need the targeted kill or 2 Echoing Decays, and you'll take the Doomblades every time over those. Another thing you can bring in is the Rats. The Nausea will stay because, like I said, they do have a lot of 1 toughness creatures. The Rats can come in to deal with those, as well as some of the 2 toughness creatures. So there you go. I hope you understand that matchup pretty well. And again, I do apologize that it's only 1 game, but just yeah, this is a pretty good matchup pre and post sideboard, and I just wanted to show you that.